Welcome back to KnockMMA. This week we're breaking down UFC Vegas 115. It's Renato Moicano taking on Chris Duncan. And this is a bit of a weird matchup. Again, we got a younger guy against an older guy, or rather a veteran against someone that's making their way through the rankings. And Renato Moicano, he's been there, he's done that, right? He's fought the best of the best. He gone in easy money fights. They gave him Islam Makhachev, and then they gave Chris Duncan Terrence McKinney, and that was his last fight. It was a pretty good win. He got that sub. And I don't know. I mean, Chris Duncan's looking a little dangerous in the UFC. He's gotten a good amount of finishes and in an interesting spot right here against Renato Moicano, who's riding a two-loss streak. What do you think, John?
I will say, dude, I will say I've been seeing a lot of hate for this card, people saying it's going to be the worst card that they've ever seen. I think this main event, if anything, makes the entire card, dude. I think it's going to be some serious fireworks. Lots of people saying that Moicano is going to out grapple Chris Duncan, but three of his last five fights came from submission wins. So it's going to be a good matchup, dude. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Guaranteed fireworks whenever Moicano's in the octagon, especially with a dude like Chris Duncan. I saw someone the other day saying Mason Jones versus Chris Duncan. That'd be a dogfight. But I also think this is kind of similar to that, dude. These are both killers. They're both hungry. They both want this win. They need this win. Dude, it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, I think Moicano's the type of fighter like everyone likes to watch. He's always there to fight. There's that one clip of him getting mad that he subbed the guy in like a minute. He was like, I wanted to fight longer. And he's like, then you shouldn't have subbed me. So I think of that. I mean, he's always game, and Chris Duncan's the same. He's gonna bring the fight to someone, whoever it is. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking for Chris Duncan to really try and impose himself on Moicano. He'll probably respect some of his game, but I don't think he'll get too caught up in that. And I think he can get a takedown. And like you said, the grappling might be the way for Moicano. I don't know if that's necessarily the truth. I think whoever has the better hands is going to be the winner here because they're both pretty good on the ground.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. And I think, Moicano in his last fight lost to decision. I don't know if it was unanimous or majority. Unanimous decision to Beneil Dariush. And no
Yeah.
disrespect to Dariush, he's a great fighter, veteran in the game. Um, I think Moicano should have taken that one. With all the hype around him and all that stuff, he should have had that. So I think he's really going to be hunting for the finish. We're going to see a hyper aggressive Moicano, I hope.
Yeah, I can see them kind of compromising him and putting him in situations where he might not be the safest, and Duncan taking advantage of those. So I think it's going to be one to watch. Definitely keep your eyes out on that one. I think these are the kind of events at the Apex where the main events usually they're not the biggest names, but they're always fun fights. Like there's always something's going to happen. They're not just gonna hug each other for
Yeah.
25 minutes.
It's like that, you'll see those memes of like the two random bantamweights thrown down in the early prelims. It's like I feel like that's gonna be a lot of this card. It's like people trying to make a name for themselves. There's a lot of perfect records on this card too, a lot of undefeated fighters. So dude, I think it's gonna be fireworks. It's getting a lot of hate undeservedly, but I think I'm
Yeah,
excited for this one.
I
It's
mean,
not
I
the
think
best
all
card I've ever seen, but I'm excited.
by no means, by no means. But I
Right.
mean, some of the fights that we're going to break down on about these prelims, like Bekoev, that we're going to talk about later in the episode. He's a fun guy to watch, and I think he's going to be one of those fights where it's like, holy shit, that might be fight of the night, and it's on the prelims. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, who's your pick for Moicano Duncan if you had to pick right now? From what we've seen, I think
If I
right now my early pick is I'm leaning with the favorite. I'm going Chris Duncan. I think Duncan has the slight edge. He's a little younger. Maybe a little bit hungrier. I mean, I know Moicano wants that money, but I mean, he's 36 now. He's on a two fight loss streak, so it's kind of difficult for him to get that confidence back up, especially against someone like Chris Duncan, who's looking to take your head off.
100%, 100%. I think if I had to look at it right now, fuck, dude. I mean, I want to say Moicano. My heart's saying Moicano. He needs this win, especially after a loss to Dariush. Islam Makhachev, nobody expected him to win, but you can't be one of the top prospects as he was kind of like a year or two ago and go on a 3-fight losing streak. So I just think Moicano by whatever means necessary. He's going to
Mm,
be hunting for that finish, dude. You might pull a fucking knife out of his cup. Who knows, dude? You never,
let's hope not. We don't. We want to see a clean
none of
fight.
that. Clean fight, boys. Yeah, clean fight, boys. Yeah.
All
But
right.
no,
Well,
I
then
think
we're go ahead.
Moicano, I just think Moicano money line, it's risky. And I think it's a weird sentence to even put Moicano money line and risky in the same sentence, but, you know,
All
unless
right.
he's fighting.
Well,
Yeah.
we're disagreeing then on that one, but I think it's going to be an interesting card, an interesting fight regardless. So
Fireworks.
now moving on to the co-main event, we got
Mhm.
Virna Jandiroba taking on Tabatha Little Shark Ricci. And I mean, for this division, this is a big fight. I think there's a lot of stakes involved here. Um, and Jandiroba, she's a dangerous fighter. She can take your neck. She can try and submit you. We saw her last against Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah.
Didn't look the best. Didn't It wasn't her sharpest fight. I think Dern really was more of a physical fighter, and she showed that just by laying on top of Jandiroba and being able to use the takedowns to her advantage. And then little shark Tabatha Ricci, she's always aggressive. She's looking to bring the fight always, and I think this will be a good matchup where both of these ladies can really go at each other and show their top qualities.
100%, dude. Yeah, I going back on that Mackenzie Dern fight. Yandaroba obviously lost, and that wasn't a great fight for her. Mackenzie Dern just was better that night. I think Yandaroba was a fierce competitor or good competition for Mackenzie, but she just didn't seem on. But she's a very solid fighter overall. And Ricci's got that really, really solid power, and we've been seeing a lot of women's knockouts. I mean, look at last card, Casey O'Neill and Alexa Grasso. So maybe Ricci's going to be kind of riding that wave and looking for the knockout, hunting the chin, trying to put her to sleep early. I think this one's going to be exciting if they stay on the feet, because Yandaroba is really skilled in jujitsu and Ricci is a judo player. So, I think if this one stays on the feet and they're trading in the pocket, I see Ricci taking it. But Yandaroba's probably been working on her grappling since that Mackenzie Dern fight because that just was bad showing. So we'll see. I'm hoping it stays on the feet. I'm hoping it's an exciting fight for the co-main. But yeah, I see Ricci taking this one.
Yeah, I can see that too. I think coming off that knockout over Amanda Ribas, that was definitely a big confidence booster for her and her hand speed and all of that. So I think against Jandiroba, who tends to be a little bit slower, and now up with age, she'll be showing that I think a little bit more. So I think Ricci will be able to get off her shots there and kind of piece her up and be smart about it. So I can see this one going with Tabatha Ricci as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Moving on, we got the Turkish menace Yakhyaev taking on Brendson Ribeiro. What do you think about this matchup? Because we got a newcomer and we got Ribeiro who's been tested before, but he's been broken as well. So what do you
Yeah.
think? Who do you have coming ahead on this one?
I'm gonna have to stick with Yakhyaev, kind of keeping that perfect record that we were talking about earlier. He's given me kind of shades of Shavkat Rakhmanov in the sense that, he's 8-0. He's got 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's just one decision fight. So I wonder, you know, I don't see this fight going the distance. And, I was watching some film on Yakhyaev and he is fucking dangerous, man. He's dangerous. But same hand, you got Ribeiro, who's out of 17 wins, he has 16 finishes. So I can say confidently in the light heavyweight division, this one is not going the distance. These guys are both killers. But I think Yakhyaev stays on top, keeps that perfect record.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a slugfest. I think Yakhyaev, he's feeling hot, he's confident, and I think he wants to put on a show and make himself known, welcome himself to the UFC and put people on notice. So I think he's going to be looking for that finish. And at only 25 years old, I don't think he's going to be gassing out. I mean, this guy's he's a kid, so he's going to be sharp and he's going to be looking to set himself up for a very good career in the UFC. And looking at Ribeiro, I mean, this guy's been beaten, he's been dragged, he's been submitted, he's been KO'd. I don't think he's going to be able to take what Yakhyaev is going to be bringing. And he's got to be on his A game because Yakhyaev is dangerous and he's legit. 8-0 for a reason. I almost said 9-0 because I think he's gonna be 9-0 after this fight. So I'm looking for him to really put on a show.
Yeah. I mean, dude, this is the reason that me and so many other MMA fans love the light heavyweight division. I mean, it's just such solid talent, even at these lower echelons. It's like these new up and comers, dude, they're fucking dangerous, man. They're dangerous. They're big boys. They move fast. They fucking hit hard. So I think all around, going back to our original point of like, this is going to be a solid card. I think we're going to have an early knockout in this one. It's going to be fireworks, dude.
Yeah, I can see an early knockout really. I think, like you said though, a lot of these young prospects at light heavyweight, they're looking dangerous, and it's gonna be a good division for some time to come. I think it's gonna be in good hands for sure.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Big time.
And I mean, what about Yakhyaev putting on for the Turkish people? I think it's good to have some more representation of Europe and globally in the UFC, and I think he's really gonna deliver for the fans.
Yeah, so but no, to your point, dude, it's the Americans, the Brazilians, the Russians, the English, they all have really solid fighters, Japan, really strong fighters, China. But, you know, as you said,
Mexico,
hey, come on, my
come
bad,
on,
my
come
bad,
on.
my
How
bad.
could we forget?
That's foolish. Slipped my mind. But yeah, dude, it's like you said, it's gonna be the sport is growing at a fucking exponential rate, and it really has been since UFC one in 1998. And I just think it's going to be more interesting to see these fighters come from places that you don't typically see world class fighters come out of. So it's exciting, dude. It's really exciting. All right, fellas, another banger on this fight. We've got Ethyn Ewing, the safety inspector, looking to check Rafael Estevam's chin. I think this one's going to be good. Estevam is coming in again, perfect record. I don't know why this card is getting so much hate, but he's coming in perfect record. And Ethyn Ewing, dude, really, really impressive performance against Wellmaker in his last fight. Um, 9-2, seven knockouts. He's got that power. It's just this is going to be a good one, dude. It's going to be a good one. Again, big win against Wellmaker, and he's got a lot of hype around him, and he's going to be looking to keep that.
Yeah, Ethan Ewing, he put the UFC fan base on notice with that amazing win over Wellmaker. Everyone was super high on Wellmaker, and then out of nowhere comes Ewing and just fucking
Yeah.
just fucking does him up. Yeah, some nice striking. Managed to keep the distance and held Wellmaker at bay, a guy that I mean he'd been knocking everyone out.
Right.
So Ewing definitely has something to prove, and he's looking to make an impact in the UFC. Um, like you said, he has that knockout power. He can be dangerous. We didn't see that too much against Wellmaker.
Right.
And now he's coming up against Estevam, who's a real killer. This guy is 14-0. You said it yourself. He can knock you out. He can submit you. Very well-rounded game, and he's faced some solid UFC competition, and been proven to succeed and come forward in those fights. He attacks his opponent. He's very measured with it though, and I like the way that he fights. I think it's going to put Ewing a little bit more on the back foot,
Mhm.
and I think he's going to be able to pressure Ewing into making a mistake. And I can see Estevam getting a finish here, even though I think Ewing is dangerous and I respect his game. I think Estevam is gonna be able to impose himself.
I agree, dude. I agree. And I would like to see a finish, since 2023, it looks like Estevam has been kind of a decision machine,
Yep.
and it's quite the contrary with Ewing. His last decision fight before Wellmaker was July of 2024. So, he's a finisher. Estevam has the power and the ability to finish, but man, I could see this one going the distance. I'm not too confident on that, but based off of Estevam's recent performances, I could see it going the distance, dude. You know,
Yeah, 100%. I don't think that's far off.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, I think maybe at some moment he can force a mistake, maybe land a takedown, and we didn't see Ewing have to do too much grappling against Wellmaker, so I think it could put him in a precarious spot, if you will. Ooh,
Perchance, yeah.
per
No, I
chance.
I agree, dude, and I think what you said um about Ewing getting put on his back foot, we haven't really seen that yet. A lot like a pressure fighter just constantly in his face. That's more his style. So I wonder how this one is going to play out. I'm excited for it, dude. I think this is going to be a great fight.
Tommy Gunn McMillen is here. He is in the UFC debut time against Manolo Zecchini. Manolo Zecchini last fought in the UFC about 2.5 years ago, where he got a KO loss against Morgan Charrier. So this is a guy who's not really on his A game right now, hasn't been the sharpest. We haven't seen him in the cage recently, so we don't know what he's been working on, but he's coming up against a hot prospect in Tommy McMillen. McMillen training out of Red Hawk Academy, I believe, in Arizona, I think is the name. And with Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch. So this is the guy that's going to come ready to bang and ready to put a show and get a highlight. Um, McMillen likes to use those hands. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage in this matchup, which I think is going to be a huge advantage for him because with the style of McMillen, where he really likes to put pressure on fighters, almost like Sean O'Malley, and just dribble their face with their hands, I think it's going to be favorable for him to keep that distance and just, use Zucchini's face as a punching bag. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I kind of think, it reminds me of when Chael Sonnen went up against John Jones and he said, I know I'm kind of being fed to the wolves right now. I think the UFC, as we were talking about earlier, kind of wants another Sean O'Malley, like a big up and comer, good with the media, just flashy fighter. And again, Tommy McMillan's another, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but he's unbeaten. He's 9-0 with 8 finishes, 5 submissions, 3 knockouts. So he is dangerous, dude. He is dangerous. And I think Zucchini, if you will, is getting thrown to the wolves here. Um, I don't see this one getting to the final bell, dude. I really don't. McMillan's dangerous. He had a pretty impressive, not impressive, Dana White Contender Series finish or decision, but he won. He got the UFC contract. And like you said, dude, we haven't seen Zucchini really active in the octagon in the past 2.5 years. So I think this one's pretty cut and dry. I think they're kind of setting up Tommy Gunn on a pedestal. I think they want to see him climb the ranks fast, and I think this is just the beginning of it. UFC debut. He's going to get a flashy knockout, is what I think, that or a submission. Um, but yeah, I don't have much to say about this fight other than I see it going Tommy McMillan's way. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, a lot of people are, in my opinion, a little too high on Tommy McMillan. Like,
Mhm.
he's definitely a solid prospect, but then looking at his Dana White's Contender Series fight, he did struggle. He got a majority decision win, over a guy that might not have been the best competition. So this is kind of a spot where you got to look out. It kind of reminds me of Hunter Campbell, or sorry, not Not Hunter Campbell. It reminds me of Curtis Campbell at
Mhm.
UFC London. We saw that a few weeks ago where everyone was kind of hyping up the prospect and kind of overlooking his opponent. So I think this is a spot you got to be careful in and really give credit to Zucchini. We'll say his proper name, Zucchini. I think
Yeah.
that's it. I don't know. I'm not Italian. Zecchini.
Is it
Um, so I think we got to give him a little bit of credit and acknowledge that he's going to be a live dog here against McMillen at potentially pretty good odds. So I think McMillen struggles. He should be able to get the finish. I think the UFC is trying to set him up for a finish victory here, but you got to look out with guys that don't get like these impressive performances on Contender Series. But I think he's on an upwards trajectory.
100%? And I think, yeah, it's hard to underestimate Zucchini just because he's been.
Please
I
say
already
his name, Zecchini.
is
Zecchini.
it Genie? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We got
To
to
all
put
my
some respect on his name.
yeah, to all my Italian fans out there, I'm uncultured. I apologize.
Mi
But
piace.
but yeah, exactly. I think he's we haven't seen him fight in 2.5 years. So I just think it's going to be hard to judge. Maybe he's been training like Rocky for the past 2.5 years and he just comes out and fucking sparks him. I haven't seen anything kind of indicating that. But with that being said, at the end of the day, dude, it's two guys effectively fighting to the death until the ref pulls him off. So anything can happen in a fist fight, you know, anything can happen. But I just see Tommy taking this one. I really do.
Yeah, I think Tommy really should get the win here. I'd be surprised if he doesn't, but I think Zucchini is gonna come out and give him a good fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Ja pierdolę. Another Polish fighter, Robert Ruchala. I got to tell you, man, I'm fired up for this one. He, in his UFC debut, fought Gomes, who is a really, really strong contender. He unfortunately did not take the dub with him on that one, but he's got a solid record of 11-2. He's got the power to really put people away. He's a fast, twitchy fighter. I'm excited for this one. But again, Jose Delano has been on a hot streak since 2023. So it's kind of hard to tell at this point. They're both really well rounded fighters, um, fast, aggressive, strong. Um, but Jose Delano is going to want to keep that momentum going. You know what I'm saying? I think I think it's going to be a good one, dude. What do you think about this one? What do you got?
I mean, I love myself some Polish power. I'm gonna be backing Robert Ruchala in this fight. I think he's really, like you said, he got kind of thrown to the wolves against Will Gomes. Gomes only has one UFC loss, and I think Ruchala having gone the distance with someone like that, it really can open your eyes and give you a perspective on what level you're on and what you need to work on and where your weak spots are. So I think as the younger fighter as well, I think he has more potential. A slight inch reach advantage, 2 inch reach advantage. And I think Ruchala is going to come out to prove that Will Gomes was just better that day and that he took something away from that fight. But not to take anything away from Jose Delano, this is a real dangerous fighter, someone that can sub you, someone that can KO you, and we're seeing a lot more of these guys now in the UFC that are multifaceted. That they're not only knockout artists or submission artists; they're a little bit of both. So these are the fighters you got to look out for because any place, anytime, anywhere, they're able to finish the fight. So you got to be aware of that. And Ruchala is one of those guys as well. So he's always dangerous. And at featherweight, I mean, these guys are always fun to watch. They're super fast, super aggressive, usually
Yeah.
pretty high cardio. So I think we can expect an exciting fight. And I think this one will go to the decision to the cards as well. Um, Two really tough guys, and I don't think anyone's going to be able to get finished. So
Yeah.
I can see Ruchala winning this by decision.
Yeah, fair. Did you get to catch Jose Delano's Dana White Contender Series against Exposito? He won
Yeah,
that one by unanimous decision. I actually didn't watch that. like not real time. I saw some of the highlights.
Yeah.
Dude, Delano looks good. He looks really good. So does Ruchala. So this is one of those ones. I think it's a sleeper pick on this card. Um, a lot of people bitching about it not being a great card, like boring fights or whatever. I think, dude, we're gonna see some fireworks in the prelims, in the late prelims. So, it's exciting. It's exciting. Uncle Dana and Uncle Hunter, they know what they're doing at the end of the day. So I think we're gonna get fireworks all throughout this card.
Yeah, this is one of those fights where it's two guys that are trying to make a name for themselves and stand out amongst all the other names. So I think they're going to look to make some noise with their fists and with their legs. So I can expect them to come out hungry, and look for the finish. But like I said, I don't think there's going to be a finish. But both guys are live for it.
Right. 100%, dude.
Azamat Bekoev is back, and after taking a tough loss against Yusuf Belgari, a KO loss nonetheless, he's facing Tresean Gore from The Ultimate Fighter. And Tresean Gore, he's had an up and down UFC career, has dealt with a lot of injuries. Me personally, I was a big fan of him on The Ultimate Fighter. I really wanted him to win and succeed, but that's not the cards he was dealt. He's dealt with some tough fights, some, like I said, injuries. He faced Brian Battle during the show, and that's a tough fight anytime you come up against Brian Battle. And I mean, not too much to be said about Tresean Gore. I think he hasn't looked like he ever reached his potential, in my opinion. He like always seems to come up short and just kind of disappoint me with the performances he puts in. And I always have faith in him. Like I think he's a talented guy. But I think right here against Azamat Bekoev, he's got his work cut out for him. Bekoev is an absolute killer, very well rounded. I think in the Belgari fight, we saw him gas out, chasing that KO, and that ultimately cost him to get KO'd, you know? So I think right here he's going to come out a little smarter. He has that experience of that first receiving end of the knockout. So I think now he'll be way more careful, pick his shots, measure the distance, and I can see him getting the finish over Tresean Gore.
Yeah. No, and going back to that Belgari thing, we saw last weekend kind of just how dangerous he is. We already knew it, but like he is a really, really strong and violent up and coming prospect in the UFC. So I'm not looking at Bekoev any different than I did before. I think he's still a killer. If you get in there with someone like Belgari and you gas out, he's going to take advantage of you, and that's just that. With that Dutch kickboxing style. It's one of the best examples I've seen in a long time, maybe since Alistair Overeem. But he, you know, again, I'm not taking anything away from him just based off a loss on Belguri. And on the other hand of that coin, or the other head of that coin, Tresean Gore is still, yeah, he's 31 years old. I was going to say relatively young, but he hasn't hit his prime yet, and I fear that if he doesn't kind of turn it around soon, I don't think he will. If he loses this fight in devastating fashion, I would be even curious to know if he still stays on the roster as a fighter. Because I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's a solid athlete. He's a dog, but you can't just kind of coast by in the UFC, just taking these losses, having these kind of not half-ass wins. Everybody deserves a win if they win, but not impressive. Not like a holy shit. Do
Totally.
you remember when Tresean Gore did that? So I don't
Yeah.
know. I think this is a serious fork in the road for Tresean Gore. And he probably knows that too. So I could see him coming out and really like we see a new guy here. And if it's kind of the same Tresean Gore we've seen for the past year or two, I see Bekoev taking it, dude. He's just too good. He's too dangerous. He's well rounded in all facets of fighting. So I see
Yeah.
this one. Yeah. What do you
No, I
got?
like the idea of a reinvigorated Tresean Gore, you know. I think
Yeah.
that'd be good for his career, and I hope that's kind of where he's at mentally, because it's now or never. He really needs to take advantage of this opportunity of being in the UFC. And maximized every opportunity, every fight. So hopefully we're in for that kind of fight where they're both kind of slugging it out and going toe to toe, maybe a 1-1 going into the third kind of fight. But if that's not the version we get, I can see Bekoev finishing Tresean, like I said.
100%. And you see it with a lot of fighters who are like solid fighters. They're good fighters, but they just can't seem to win the big fights or put on really good performances. I just fear that Tresean Gore might end up as one of those, divisional gatekeepers for up and coming guys, and then they're just throwing killers at him. You know what I'm saying?